fucking Eve. Well, I think we're live on a shot of terrain and minis from the gaming campaign. The weekend of the patrons has begun, so behold now. Welcome to Feedback Friday, everyone. Muhahaha. I am here in a rented Airbnb with 4 patrons who are the dads. That's right, everybody. The dads are here. Let's go around. To my left, we have Nathan and Andy.
Hey. Oh, hi.
And then to my right, we have Dave and Eric.
Hi, guys.
Hey. And this is the first time that we have actually played all together.
Yes.
In person. And it has been pretty cool so far. What do you think, guys?
We need Kale here. That's the thing.
We need Kale here?
Yeah.
Miss you, Kale.
Hey, there's Niels. There's Anya. Hi, everybody. Kale is here in the chat.
Oh, cool.
He's here in spirit.
Mike.
So this began actually several years ago, right? Like I was like,
starting.
It'd be really cool if we could get together and have like a gaming fellowship retreat where we just play games and hang out and now it's finally really here, July of 2023, the inaugural. Let me say that again. Inaugural. The inaugural.
I'll put down the beer and try to say
the inaugural Jim Beam weekend. So we decided that in between gaming, actually, to be fair, it was Eric's idea. Everybody, Eric.
Hi, guys.
Woo. Eric came up with the idea.
Eric.
He was like, what if we did a Feedback Friday from the Patron Gaming Weekend? I was like, that's a great idea. So here we are doing it. So it's been a while since I've done a Feedback Friday. Right, Krafa?
Yeah.
Krafa's here too, everybody. He's behind the scenes, drinking beer and switching. So we have been playing. We've played a couple games so far. Of course, we are recording episodes of the dads, so stay tuned because these in-person episodes are going to be dope. You may have seen the minis and terrain on the field. Pow. That's right. So that's the camp. That's where the dads have found themselves on this mysterious island continent, exploring away this season on season 2 of the dads. I'm going to actually ask you guys some questions, and then you can ask questions, and then we'll talk about different topics. So we switched from D&D 5e in the first season to my game system, Archons and Acolytes, and you guys have been part of the playtest of that, actually, even before Archons. You did some of the playtests with Ruins and Remnants, the post-apocalyptic version. What do you think, I'm going to go for each one of you, what is the biggest difference that you feel playing your character from season 1 of D&D with dads to now using Archons and Acolytes?
How much can we spoil in our answer?
So you could spoil a little bit, but think about what we've already recorded and try not to record anything or say anything specific to today.
I just assumed all the questions were going to be like, well, what does Bill look like in person?
Yeah.
What does he smell like in person?
That's right.
It's like sandalwood, everybody.
Yes,
Just
winter
like
fresh.
That's right. Okay.
So Nathan, what do you think is one thing that is a big difference playing Humphrey Humblebottom using the Archons and Acolytes mechanics?
So Humphrey Humblebottom is a wizard in 5e, but in A&A, it's, I guess there is no concept of a wizard, really. It's your character just focuses and specializes on what it wants to focus and specialize on, as opposed to being stuck in a particular class. And so what I think the biggest change is, and what I really appreciate, is the flexibility of the magic system, where I don't have to read from a spell book. If I wanted my character to do that, I'm sure I could find a mechanical way to make that happen, but really it's the flexibility. There's the power of known spells, like a lightning bolt equivalent. I mean, that's effectively like a known spell. Because it's known, it's repeated a lot. You can not have to spend a lot of your, it's called qua points to do so. But if I wanted my lightning bolt to turn into a fork and kill three targets instead of one, if I have enough skill in that type of magic, and I have if I want to burn the extra qual points, I can do that. It's wicked cool, and so I love that flexibility. And then in other episodes, we've with a group we've teamed up, right, where we've like, oh, I'm going to use some of my this type of magic, and let's use our temporal magic, and we've with our powers combined, Captain Planet happened, and that's my long answer. That's what I think is really amazing.
Well,
I think
and
that's
to
a great
be
answer.
fair, Humphrey is kind of like god tier in terms of magic. So like, I feel like that's like a major difference, right? Like I think
it really did boost his.
I think Humphrey was a lot more limited under the
5e.
D&D rules.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that like as long as you have the points to spend, you can like literally shape the world, right?
Absolutely.
And like, D&D has that at its highest levels, but like we're not anywhere near.
Yeah, because what level did we come over at? Like, what was it, like 7 or 8 or something like that?
Maybe 8th, I think.
And we're fairly badass at that level. So, where I would imagine, to your point, Eric, like, we'd have to be several levels higher to reach that level of badassery, in the 5e system.
I would think that's valid.
Somebody agree with me. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Andy, thoughts about your character's conversion? What is it like playing Riff the Bard from 5e? What is it like playing Riff now in Archons?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and that's been something I've been struggling with as we get this new season going. Is D&D 5e? I've got a 20 charisma. I'm just gonna say something quick and witty to give bardic inspiration to somebody for their next roll, or performance. I got like whatever that I can do, roll 2 dice, what do you call it, with advantage, right? For a performance without really having to perform. So I'm like, that doesn't necessarily translate well into so far what I'm seeing in A&A. So it's been a challenge, but challenges are good. And so as we found today, I actually had to somewhat do something that I think Riff would have done in D&D world to actually give some kind of inspiration. So
do you think A&A gives you more opportunity for role play or less, or forces you to role play more of a game mechanic?
Whether it does or not, I feel like I've felt more naturally RPing than in D&D 5e, but that's
I'm feeling that too, actually. It's a good point.
Not to say I couldn't have done the same thing in D&D 5e, but I think just being forced to figure out what Riff looks like in this new world is kind of encouraging more of that as we discover the mechanics of the system and whatnot, to still not just lose Riff in the in the conversion, still trying to figure out how to make him Riff.
Yeah, I think it feels like the role play matters. Whereas I think in 5e, the role play doesn't necessarily matter. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot more rules, I think, to 5e that you can fall back upon without having to rely on your ability to roleplay.
I want to give them some inspiration. Let me roll my dice, because I don't know how to say anything or do anything inspirational.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because you do have multiple options for ways to do things, and that's intentional. Like, as a case in point, right? You could use the perception ability score in conjunction with a whole bunch of different knowledges or skills, whether that's perception plus nature if you're looking for that specific plant that the botanists wanted you to find, or perception plus social manipulation to tell if someone's being truthful. There's a lot of different ways to create the dice pools based on what you want to do, but you have to decide that as a player, which is very much intentional. I wanted it to be the kind of thing where there were multiple ways to do things, just like with the magic system. You could just be like, I'm dropping a fireball, boom, energetic magic, right? Or you could drop a, what did you call it? The spiritual?
Yeah, spirit
The holy ball.
The holy ball,
Yeah.
So you want to do basically a fireball of divine, retribution energy, right? Using spirit. So there's a lot of ways that you could do that, which I think part of it was when I was making this game, I kind of didn't make it newbie friendly. And And I don't know if that's
Oh,
going to
BS. It's all D4 system.
I mean, yes and no, but like my point is that I think part of it requires the players to be more creative with how they play their characters and what they choose to do with their players, with their characters, and I think it's rewarding when you start to figure out that there are a lot of different ways that you can do stuff.
Well, I think that ties back into one of my criticisms of 5e in total. Like, it's a streamlined game, but it's also like you have limited options. Like, if you're going like by the rule books, you like are sort of set on a path by your class and things of that nature.
And your character doesn't have much chance to evolve, which is, I think, your point, right?
Yeah, like the growth is the thing that matters and is different. And I think having that freedom to grow in a way that's not like on a railroad track. Like,
but isn't that what multi-classing is supposed to be able to offer, is the ability for growth?
That's exactly what happened with Tuco. So in 5e, he was barbarian, rogue, fighter, and I had to track all these different abilities and stuff, and it was really crunchy, and neither of those are magic based. So when he converted him over into A&A, yeah, he's got some magical abilities, and that's what's fueling all the abilities. And I wanted to be a samurai. I didn't like the samurai class in D&D, and Bill came up with the class I had, and it was really hard to kind of do what I wanted to do. This kind of frees me up to think, well, how would I want to play the guy?
So
how do I use these abilities in magic?
That's a good point, Dave. So because you went from a 5e character that was a multi-class, none of those classes utilized divine or arcane magic, but in A&A you have some magical ability. Talk about how that works for you and for Tuco, or even just the process of kind of figuring out as a player, like, what do I do with this?
So Tuco's a very martial person. He doesn't necessarily need magic, but he uses, I want to have more speed, or I want to be able to heal someone, or I want to be able to
be more aware of danger or threats in combat.
Far sight for scouting.
Yep.
And I don't have to look into a rule book and see, hey, what spells do I have available or anything. I can just think, if I was a fighter or samurai, what would I be doing with whatever the thing is? I just kind of make it up, and how am I going to do this? Well, do you have temporal magic? Yes, I do. And okay, well then how about doing it this way?
Yeah, or the spatial magic where you've used it for Farsight to be able to kind of scout things, but you could also use that in combat to find the best route through a group of opponents or to a group of opponents, right? To be able to navigate the battlefield. So that do you feel like you're starting to figure that out, and do you think that that's an advantage over 5e?
I think it just gives me the freedom. I don't have to go to a rule book and say, how do I do this, and make my ideas fit the rule book. I just talk about my ideas with the team and the GM, and this is what I want to do. How could I do it?
Right. Yeah, it is. It's, in some ways, it's a conversation.
Well, and also, your character of Tuco, right? You really wanted to explore Eastern culture, right? And I think that 5e and for a long time D&D has struggled with working in those Eastern concepts because it's such a game that's focused on the European
medieval,
yeah. It's so focused on that I think this system sort of gives you the freedom to go out and explore those concepts in a way that's very different and more authentic.
Without being
authentic,
limited by the rules.
Yeah, that's the real world. It feels more organic and not forced or railroaded to a point that you kind of made.
All right, so I think it's great that you're kind of figuring out that the flexibility of that and how that applies to your character. I have a follow-up question. Imagine if you didn't have any magic at all for Tuco. Would you feel as a player like your character, compared to the people who do have magic, is underpowered? Be honest.
I don't know. The one good thing,
much combat yet.
the one good thing is, he doesn't have to use his qua. If we run out of qua, he's still really good with his sword.
Right, I'm not done.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, without too much spoiler, there was an encounter in our last game that we just did, and Tuco avoided being hit, and that wasn't magic. So there's some element of that combat strategy in this game as well that someone who does have magic might have still suffered damage. So there's the real threat, I guess, the real threat of death. But we'll get back to that. All right, Eric, you're in a kind of a different place. So I'm curious what your thoughts are converting Durant Malarkin as a cleric from 5e into Archons and Acolytes. What's that process been like a little bit?
Well, I mean, for me, some of it was I wanted to explore the character in a different way. So, like, in 5e, the cleric that I was playing had a huge amount of magic and like a huge focus on, all kinds of like knowledge things and like that. So I've retained the knowledge stuff intentionally. I've sort of kept the ability to impact people in a mental way, but I've sort of lost some of the raw power of the magic from Durant. And I wanted to explore what Durant looked like, without having quite so many tricks to fall back on. So the system has allowed me to do those sorts of things, right? And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do these character explorations, with respect to level of magic and being a cleric.
From a player and character perspective, going from a 5e divine spellcaster into Archons and Acolytes, how does that affect how you're role-playing the character? How does it affect your decisions for the character as you're playing through this discovery of this new kind of existence?
Well, to be honest, I don't think Durant has realized yet that his power is not coming from a divine source. So I as the person behind the character know that that's what's at play here, but Durant doesn't. Durant still feels very much like his power comes from the divine, and so he still does the things. He still prays and is still faithful, although he's had to kind of switch allegiances because Daenerys doesn't exist in this particular world. So. Yeah, I think in terms of the role play, the decision really was on me on how I wanted to do that, and sort of I felt that Durant wouldn't really connect the dots and feel like his magic came from an external from a different source, from an internal source.
Interesting. Okay. All right. That's great. I love the responses, the insights that you guys have shared thus far with the gameplay and the experience. Now, let's talk about this gathering this weekend. What is it? What are some of the best things that you've enjoyed so far? So I feel like we've been hanging out for days, but really it's been not even a full 24 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
So what has this experience been like so far? What have you enjoyed the most?
Chicago deep dish pizza.
Chicago deep dish pizza. Dave, that's a good starter. Eric, what do you think?
Rodan the Destroyer.
Rodan the Destroyer.
Monster of the week.
Yeah, maybe Rodan will appear in future episodes of stuff. Andy, what do you think?
I mean, certainly the food, the deep dish pizza, the Italian beef, but I mean the fellowship. Honestly, it's the first time I've met you guys in person, and we played quite a few episodes online, but it's completely different.
Andy only regrets meeting a couple of us.
Only seeing everybody from the neck up all this time, and then finding out who am I taller than and shorter than, and wider than and narrower than, all that stuff. But the fellowship, the food, and it's all fun.
Absolutely.
And to another point, the conversations have been great. Like the interpersonal stuff that's outside the game that we don't get to experience, when we're doing the episodes virtually.
Right, because you're on the call. I mean, I'd make the same argument. I mean, this all goes back to anybody who's working age and is like, oh, do you return to office or not? And there is something to be said for just being in person together, at least some of the time. And it makes a lot of difference with the fellowship, with the interpersonals, right? Those conversations that we're having. It establishes a tighter bond. And so when we leave this and we come back and we start playing again on Zoom, we have these conversations, we have these group dynamics that we've built out here to fall back upon, right? It builds trust.
I couldn't have said it better. Like that, I think actually everything that you guys said, from the food and drinks to the fellowship and the conversations, all of it. Like, and I mean, for me, it's, of course, like it's actually kind of shocking that we've been playing for over 3 years. So, what a lot of people on the channel might not know is that we played online as a group with D&D with Dads before we started doing it as a show. I mean, a lot. Like, we had a lot of adventures.
I think Eric again was pushing. It was like, oh, we should really get this going and record it. And Andy was pretty vocal about it too. Or was it you first? I don't know. I know you guys were both pushing it. And I was like, oh, I don't want to impose upon Bill to do another series, but I'm glad we did. It's been really cool.
I mean, I think about, like, there was a lot of story and lore that we had played through before even starting season 1 with recording the videos, and then now just to be able to play together, physically at a tabletop and have that fellowship is awesome. And we've been playing this, and we're going to have some episodes to share with everybody on the channel for the dads. But we played. Last night we played a game. We tried playing a game. I'm a little rusty, but we tried some Monster of the Week. What do you guys think? We haven't finished that one, so it got late and we all had to crash because we're old. So, what did you think of Monster of the Week, Nathan?
It was awesome. We were old and crashed, and so I was exhausted. But I woke up this morning and I was thinking. I started, my brain immediately went to it. I'm like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. It was pretty cool. I mean, Monster of the Week is clearly a whodunit.
Yeah. Right?
And so if you appreciate that genre, it can be pretty formulaic if you don't wander around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off.
Right.
Which is clearly what we did. So I am excited, I'm rejuvenated to once again run around like chickens with our heads cut off.
Yeah, we'll give it a try tonight.
Yeah, it was like, we miss clues sometimes in the dads in A&A, but missing clues in Monster Week felt like, oh, that's okay. We can quickly rectify that by going over there and talk to that person.
Right.
Because it's generally a one-shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we have longer time to correct that in
as long as people don't get murdered every day, which unfortunately they are.
And full disclosure, we're only on day 2. So right now we're all like, yeah, this is the best. So give us 2 more days of like possibly hearing each other snore or other bad habits. It might not be that great. But
yes.
I think it's going to stay great.
I had fun. Dave, what are your thoughts?
First time playing.
Yeah. What was it like trying it? As a first time player, like, what was it like picking it up and figuring out what you wanted to do and what you wanted to play?
I'm a person that loves reading the rules and planning everything out, and I had none of that, so I just okay, I'm just going to pick a character at random and then just see what happens. And so it was interesting that you don't have to do all this planning all the time. You may not be great at role-playing it, but it's still fun, and I love the mystery portion of it. That drives it itself. Like, I don't want to stop now because I want to figure out what the ending is.
Yeah.
Who did it?
What happened to Anna?
Absolutely. Eric, thoughts on Monster of the Week?
So I'm going to say here, I opted to be the comic relief because everyone else went super straight and serious. So my character is way over the top and just completely the wrong fit for this group, and I've still made it work, so it's been fun.
We go to the library and top of your voice, I'm Rodan the Destroyer.
Yeah, I wonder if it wasn't set on a college campus during homecoming week, if people would have different reactions, but you kind of chose something that looks a little mascot-y, and people just assumed that that's what it was. So, it kind of worked.
Yeah.
All right. Closing thoughts, because we do want to conserve time. We're going to wrap up pretty soon, so we do want to conserve some time for gaming. Any kind of closing thoughts? Looking forward, looking at...
One of the things I've enjoyed with Archons and Acolytes is because it's a new game system and the way the story developed, we were just dropped into this new world and all new kind of things are happening. So we are organically exploring the rules of the new system, which really makes it kind of fun.
And a new world,
Yes.
because it's set in my world. So you're learning a new system, and your characters are not in the Forgotten Realms; they're in this new world that they are unfamiliar with. So whether that's geographically or from like gods and divinities levels, there's a lot of new experiences. Yeah, that's a good point.
What made you, my closing thoughts is a question. What made you decide to want to insist upon a D4 system?
Mechanically, I'm going to tell you the truth. When I came up with...
Thank you for not lying.
When I came up with Ruins and Remnants, it started off as a joke. I was like, I should make a game with D4s just to annoy everybody. And then I did.
You're like, oh my God, this kind of works.
Yeah, and it kind of works. And like, you could buy D4s now that are like rounded. They roll better than the pyramids. But I
then
don't
you
know.
can't step on them as painful.
I always felt like I've enjoyed other dice pool games, right? Like there's the old Star Wars D6 games. And then there's obviously the White Wolf, Vampire, Mage. Those are all D10 based. So I like dice pools. I think they're cool. And I thought that mechanically it would facilitate what I wanted to do with the whole flexible resolution thing, where there are, you want to convince somebody to do something, there are like 5 different ways to do that,
Well, let's be honest. You also chose the D4 because it'll make you the enemy of parents everywhere.
Yes,
when the book goes out.
they are caltrops. You can throw them on the ground. If somebody
step
steps
on
on a
Legos,
D4, it
yeah.
hurts.
Worse than Legos.
Yeah,
because they're pointy.
But it works.
But it works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It works.
and I mean, we're playing this and we're play testing it, and there, as we discussed during several, eating on the patio and having drinks and hanging out, like I'm still in the process of evolving this, and this is 5 years now into that process. Realizing that the magic system needs to be defined better so that there's more consistency with damage and duration and range and all those things, right? Area of effect. So like it's evolving, and it's evolving in the best possible way by playing it with people who I feel like you guys have given me great feedback and will continue to give me great feedback. And eventually we will get it to a point where it's ready for kind of a beta test release, and other people can try it out and test it out and provide feedback. I'm not going to say what Eric's working on, but I'm just going to say that Eric has developed something and is in the process of developing something that will make character creation for Archons and Acolytes really smooth, very easy, and it'll be a very helpful tool that you will enjoy having.
So if people want to find out more about Archons and Acolytes, how can they do that?
They could just go fuck themselves. No, I will definitely share this first and foremost with the patrons. So all of my patrons at all levels, when I have that beta document ready to be shared, and probably when Eric's product is ready as well, those things will be shared with my patrons first, because I've said this a million times, without my patrons I wouldn't literally be able to afford the time or energy to be able to do all the stuff that we do on the channel. So I think that would be my target, and then to have the patrons be able to play this game and try it out, and like literally I would be like, hey, time to break the game, see, figure it out, and get feedback from the patrons, and then tweak things and modify things and make adjustments and revisions when needed, so that ultimately it is strongly role-played, strongly tested, play tested, and then developed enough to be able to release for publication. So whether that's 6 months to a year, I don't know, but it's well on its way. And I think what I feel most of all is that the decision to move, like this show, for example, from a 5e show set in the Forgotten Realms to Archons and Acolytes set in Kekapulon is something that I think was a good decision, and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the process. with season 2 and the campaign so far. And it really means a lot that you were willing to take a chance and try this out, because that's the best way to test it. Is when we play a session and then you guys have questions, or you have like feedback, or you're Nathan and you're like, my character's a god. I'm too powerful. Like, yes, right now you are, but so it's something that evolves, and I think it's awesome to be able to do that with you guys. And I'm very grateful that all of you guys were able to make the time to make this gaming retreat happen, because it is everything that I hoped it would be. It's awesome just to be able to spend time together, to game, and just get to know each other better, and it's a great thing. So
Thanks to the family for letting us.
yes, thank you to all of our families. Yep, exactly. Yeah,
Very thankful.
we're getting a lot of good work done here, and we're having a good time, and it means a lot. It's good for the soul. So everybody who joined us for this surprise Feedback Friday, thank you guys for coming through. And I know that a lot of you guys were having comments in the chat, and I didn't have a chance to address them. But we're trying to conserve time here because we only have Carafa for one day. So
How many of the comments were like really negative?
none of them. They were all awesome. They were
Disappointment.
all awesome. Niels, Kale, and Anya, everybody stopping in. Thank you guys. I think I saw Mark Gump stop in for a second, and then maybe had to split. But thank you guys for sticking around. And I hope this was informative, entertaining, provocative, who knows. Have a great weekend. We are going to have a great weekend.
Yep.
And stay tuned for these episodes that we're recording here of the Dads Season 2, because I think they might be the best so far in the season. So we'll see you guys very soon. Carafa, take us home.
Cheers.
The captain come to hit us sugar and tea and rum. Wait, blah, 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 blah. I don't have the lyrics pulled up.